Hello everyone, my name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 6, Episode 3. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/mindwar. Now back to the show. Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. Folks, a few days ago, I saw a video of a young man who's been listening to the Gateway Experience tapes. He looked to be in his mid-30s, and he was basically walking down the beach. I wish I had saved a copy of this video. I thought I had saved it in my favorites, but I couldn't find it. But I want to talk a little bit about what this gentleman was saying. So he said he had been experiencing the Gateway Experience tapes for some time now, and that he decided to stop with the tapes. He wasn't going to listen to them anymore. And he said the reason is because one of the tapes, he said he saw before him millions of spirits, and each one of those spirits came before him and looked him right in the eyes. And each one of the spirits were, scarier and more grotesque. And he found himself to be extremely fearful. And he said it was too scary and he just didn't want to listen to the tapes anymore. And that really took me aback, because I believe he was talking about the tape we listened to in the last episode, 7-2. Again, if you look at his description of what happened, where he came in front of these spirits and they showed themselves to him, he was fearful. But again, like we've talked about so many times here in the Mind War, there is no fear here, okay? And if you think about my description of coming in contact with all of these spirits, I didn't show fear. I was excited to meet them. These were my people. This was my army of the undead spirits. I thought there was a real contrast there. And again, it goes to show that you cannot go into these tapes with fear. And again, tapes waves 1 through 4 that were done by Robert Monroe himself, those are the self-help tapes. Those are great. Everybody should listen to those. But moving beyond wave 4, maybe it's not for everyone. Okay, so that's something to remember. And, maybe you don't do these further explorations if it's too much for you. If it's not something that you're interested in doing, because again, we saw a major shift when we moved into wave 5. Things started to get very different, right? We moved away from self-help, and now we're moving into this area where we are attempting to help the spirits of those who have already passed away. So I thought that contrast between the two different stories, the two different experiences that I had in comparison to this other gentleman who, again, allowed his fear to overtake him, and he's decided to no longer continue listening to the tapes. So the gentleman also mentioned another creator, and he goes by the moniker Museum of Tarot. It's a very interesting channel. You can find it on YouTube. I've watched so many of his videos. He does a lot of long form videos on, and he does a deep dive into kind of occult and esoteric ideas. He's a very intelligent person, professionally trained. And the gentleman from the first video mentioned Museum of Tarot because he said the guy from Museum of Tarot no longer listens to the Gateway Experience tapes either. He says they're demonic. And I thought that was pretty pretty hitting the nail right on the head because, again, in my spiritual work, I am a demonologist. I practice demonolatry. We're going to talk a lot about that in future seasons. It's not nearly as scary as you might think. We hear a lot of, again, very fearful things about demonolatry throughout the internet and a lot of occult writings and stuff like that. So, again, there is no fear here in the Mind War. But I went back because I remember, you know, again, I've watched so many videos from this channel, Museum of Tarot. I decided to go back and take a look at the video that this gentleman made about the Gateway Experience tapes. And it is a perfect analogy. It's a perfect example of how we have to fight the Mind War. The mis and disinformation that's out there, okay? So we are actually going to watch the video from Museum of Tarot on his feelings about the Gateway Experience tapes. Now, again, this is for educational purposes. That's why I am showing this video. We're going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to do some commentary throughout. But again, this is for educational purposes. Now, I do want to state I had to cut out a small section of this video where he played scenes from the movie The Matrix. Now, I'm not going to try to play that on my channel because I know it's just going to get, you know, copyright strike or whatever. But again, this is for education. I hope Museum of Tarot doesn't hit me with the copyright for what we're doing here. But I thought this was very interesting. And the video that we're about to watch, it's about 7 minutes long. It has 90,000 views, okay? Again, compare that to what we're seeing here in the Mind War. We're lucky if we hit 10 or if we hit double digits on each episode. Some of them, you know, maybe go up to about 100 people viewing them, but those are really high numbers for the Mind War podcast. That's okay with me. My goal was never to reach the masses. My goal is just to reach a few of the fellow mind warriors out there and help guide them through this process and share with all of you the things that I've learned through my experiences, okay? So again, let's see if we can get this video started. We're doing some new technology here on OBS. I believe when I start this video, it's just going to start right up. So let's see here. And let's go ahead and start. Again, this is from the channel Museum of Tarot. And this gentleman is going to be talking about his experience and knowledge of the Gateway Experience tape. So here we go.
These are all consciousness enhancement devices, or as some people call them, mind machines. In previous videos, I've gone over some of the research I've done on Bob Monroe and the Gateway Experience, and why I no longer personally trust that technology. But up until now, I've never gone into the technical details. So let's go into some of the darker aspects of consciousness technology.
Okay, so he's talking about the darker aspects of conscious technology and why he no longer trusts the Gateway Experience tapes. Again, what he's going to do and what we're going to see here in the beginning of this this video is he's going to set his credentials as a professional, okay? And then we're going to see what I like to call a bait and switch about mid-video. So let's keep rolling here.
And you can see from my collection that I collect mind devices. And it's not because I'm just a hobbyist, it's because this is actually my professional field. My academic background is in neuroscience and computer science with advanced degrees in both. For the past 15 years, I've worked as one of the top artificial intelligence experts in the country. In my professional career, I've worked with some of the biggest names in the tech industry on some very high-profile artificial intelligence systems. And let me just be blunt. Things like Elon Musk's Neuralink and the various interfaces between your mind and a computer that they're still working on, that's all a red herring. We had that figured out decades ago. I've always been in the private sector. I've never worked for the government. But even in private research and...
Okay, so again, he's showing his credentials here. He's talking about all sorts of technology for dealing with consciousness. In front of him is a whole table of all his collection of all of these different mind-reading technologies, right? And again, he says he doesn't work for the government. Well, I did. I basically spent my entire career either working directly for the United States Marine Corps or working for organizations that, worked with the Marine Corps. Okay, so again, one of the things that I want to try to do here is, again, differentiate what we have with this gentleman here and what we see throughout so much other content like this. Is these very professional people coming in with their degrees and all of their knowledge and everything and trying to share with us, commoners, their strong feelings about these type of subjects, right? And, I like to think of myself as a regular guy. I mean, I have an associate's degree in computer technology management, which was nothing. I got it online, right? Again, my 20 years of IT experience, yes, I did work for the military, but it was very basic computer knowledge, right? I wasn't into anything wild or top secret or anything like that. Nothing. It was very basic computer repair and things like that, networking, a little bit of databasing, right? So again, trying to just make that contrast between what he is saying here in this video and what I'm trying to say here in the Mind War about the Gateway Experience tapes, that first and foremost, they're about self-help. And again, he has a table of these cool technologies. What have I told you? We need Beats headphones. I just recommend Beats because I found them to work best with the tapes. They have the best sound, the best bass. They bring the tapes to life. Eye covers. It's nice to have something covering your eyes when you're listening to the tapes, right? And then, of course, the enhancements of psilocybin and THC. No technology here, nothing wild, right? Very basic things, again, to get us in that state of somnambulance, again, which is just the hypnotic state, so we can go and then move into our spiritual work. So let's continue here.
Development, we had technology that didn't require a headset to read your brainwaves and make changes on a computer. So what does this have to do with hemi-sync and the Gateway Experience?
What does it have to do?
It started when I was doing research for a follow-up video into why most people don't actually get the claimed experience, the claimed benefits from this technology.
Okay, important part, he did say that so many people are not experiencing the Gateway tapes. I've told you that before 1,000 times. There's a huge difference between listening to the tapes, hearing the tapes, versus experiencing the tapes. If you are not experiencing the tapes, number one, it's about preparation, and number two, it's the enhancements. The enhancements of psilocybin and THC bring the tapes to life. And again, we're working with natural things. We're not trying to look outside of ourselves to all these scientific gadgets this guy is going to talk about, and wait till you see the rest of the video. It gets even sillier, right? But it's basic natural things, and that's what's going to allow you to actually experience these tapes, okay?
And I started going through the hemi-sync patents. And what I found in those patents is that hemi-sync and the Gateway Experience aren't just using simple binaural beats. It's not as simple as 100 hertz in one ear and 107 hertz in another ear, and your brainwave and training to that 7 hertz.
Wow.
What it appears to be, from my reading of the patent,
it appears
they're training you to pre-recorded brainwaves, either organic or something that they contrive themselves. And when I read this, I noped right out.
Nope.
And I'll explain why. It all goes back to a group in Japan known as the Aum Shinryoku.
And here's the bait and switch, folks. Okay. So he's talking about the Gateway Experience tapes. He's talking about how he believes that in the tapes they're able to put in like brain waves, and they're not using normal frequencies and all this stuff. Okay, whatever, dude. Fine. Okay. But now here's the bait and switch. Now we go from talking about the gateway experience tapes and move into a completely different subject. Some Japanese cult that used brainwashing devices, mind control devices, just like the ones you see on this guy's desk, in order to, mind control their members. What? What does that have anything to do with the tapes and what we're trying to do here, right? It has nothing. Again, it's a bait and switch. He's now talking about something completely different and completely moving away from the tapes in general to now talk about some weird cult. So let's follow.
Back in the 90s, this group gained infamy for a terrorist attack where they gassed the Tokyo subway system. Part of this cult's mind control operation involved making members wear a headset called the Perfect Salvation Illumination Headset. And what this headset was claimed to do is to entrain the brainwaves of cult members with that of the cult leader.
Okay, so again, talking about this cult and how they had some type of device that they would wear that would entrain their member, brainwash them basically. And now he's saying how evil that is and how scary that is. Yet, let's see what he says later on in the tape.
It would be to be hooked up to a cult leader's brainwaves. The real problem comes in when you realize that the speculation is that the Aum Shinryoku was an intelligence operation.
Sure.
They were testing a small population of the Japanese public, a traditionally very conservative group of people who do not break rules, to see if they could turn them into radicals and commit terrorist attacks. The cult leader wasn't even hooked up to the system. The cult members were hooked up to a computer system that was monitoring them in real time, sending feedback to change their brain states and to gradually change their minds and their morality. As an example of what technologies have trickled down into the public sector, we see patent number 6,011,900.
And now we're going to add more technologies.
It's a communication system and method including brainwave analysis and or use of brain activity. What this is a system and method for enabling human beings to communicate by way of their monitored brain activity.
Okay.
The brain activity of an individual is monitored and transmitted to a remote location, e.g. by satellite. At the remote location, the monitored brain activity is...
Okay. What he's rambling on about here is that basically the technology that they've developed, and I'm sure it's out there right now, it's just not available to us commercially, but basically you put on, some type of mind reading device that's going to monitor the signals of your brain. When you're thinking about things, they can take those patterns and understand what you're thinking about, and then they can transmit those signals to someone else somewhere, throughout the internet, right? That makes sense. That's not that big of a deal. Of course, it's amazing technology, but guess what? It has nothing to do with the Gateway Experience tapes. Number one, you're going to download the tapes to your phone or to your computer, right? You can listen to them offline. Hell, you can buy the cassette version of these tapes if you wanted to and have no connection to the internet whatsoever. Because basically what he's trying to say here is that through the Gateway Experience tapes, they're going to be sending signals through the internet to your mind. What are you talking about, bro? These are tapes that were developed either back in the 70s by Monroe or some of the newer ones in the early 2000s. We're not streaming them from some, the Monroe Institute servers where they have control to add, new messages and stuff. And it doesn't make any sense what this guy's talking about. Again, it's the bait and switch. He's adding all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the Gateway Experience tapes.
Paired with pre-recorded normalized brain activity curves, waveforms, and patterns to determine if a match or substantial match is found. And if such a match is found, then the computer replies. With these technologies, if you take somebody's mind and you give them a brainwave that's been pre-recorded and you entrain their brain to it and you have the same brainwave at your destination computer, they can get into synchrony with one another and allow two-way communication between both. An individual's brainwaves are as unique as a fingerprint. Publicly, this process is known as EEG heterodyning, among other names, and it's the current state of the art in neuroscience and consciousness research. And there doesn't seem to be any limitation in distance. In the videos that I presented earlier on the psychic training device, and I taught you how to build one of those, Dr. Michael Persinger linked up two minds 6,000 kilometers apart using a very different technology. To use an analogy, something like the mind-to-mind system opens you up to the internet. It's open source. It allows you to go do whatever you wish with your psychic ability. But something that entrains you to an EEG is like getting malware that sends you off to a very specific website.
Okay. Again, adding in all sorts of nonsense. You're not connecting to a server to listen to the Gateway Experience tapes. I mean, you might be listening to them from YouTube where they're available or something like that, right? But you're probably not connected to a live version of the tapes where they can constantly be changed and upgraded. Again, you're going to download them to your phone. You're going to download them to your PC, right? You're going to buy a DVD or CD version of them. Okay, so none of what he's talking about really has anything to do with the Gateway Experience tapes. Again, he is talking about other technologies and he's trying to layer it over top. Could these technologies be combined? Sure, probably, but that's not what's going on here. Again, we're downloading a copy of the tapes and we're playing them from our local file system.
So when Dr. Puharish started studying telepathy back in the 1940s, they had an idea to weaponize this natural human ability for telepathy and clairvoyance. And basically, they created a man-in-the-middle attack. So as soon as I read that Bob Monroe was basically doing a study project where he was taking all these people and recording their brainwaves, and that the Gateway Experience implements those brainwaves, that became a problem for me real quick. Because I can't trust that if I'm doing a Gateway Experience, that I'm having an organic experience, or if that's something that a computer system is playing back to me.
Okay, we kind of talked about this in the last episode. If the narrator wasn't talking about the things on the tape, so especially in the last tape where he's describing that you're going to be coming face to face with these spirits, he's describing that the spirits are sad and suffering and angry, right? And I said, if the narrator wasn't saying those things, would we see those things? And the answer is maybe not, right? Because again, it is guided meditation, okay? But having someone guide you through basically a visualization program, right? An exercise. He is asking you to imagine things in your mind. The narrator, AJ Honeycutt, in waves 7 and 8 of the Gateway Experience tapes, again, he is describing the things that we're going to see, and it allows us to visualize those things. Again, a visualizing exercise, right? It's not a computer program, because again, this guy is mixing up all sorts of things. He's calling it software and malware and mind control. It just doesn't make sense what he's doing. And again, it seems like he's just trying to demonize the Gateway Experience tapes. Not sure why, but my guess is, again, this is a learned intellectual, right? I'm guessing he's got all sorts of degrees. He tells us he's never worked for the government. Not that just regular corporations are any better, right? Not that we should trust whoever he worked for, right? Looked like he worked for IBM, says he worked on Watson. So again, why is he trying to discredit this? Seems like a psyop to me, right? Again, this guy's video, 90,000 people have seen this video. 90,000 people who, if they believe this guy and they trust him, are no longer going to trust the Gateway Experience tapes. What's easier? Which is easier? You answer this. Is it easier to watch this guy's 7-minute video demonizing the Gateway Experience tapes and then turning that video off and saying, those tapes are scary and demonic, I'm never going to listen to them, I'm not going to try? Or is it better to work with your friend Victor here We've done 9 months of these videos, and we still have about 2 months to go. We're doing the deep dive. We are experiencing the tapes. We're doing it with natural forms of psilocybin and THC enhancements. We're simply buying off-the-shelf $100 headphones, not weird technology that came from the government and all this stuff like this guy's saying, right? It just doesn't make any sense what he's doing here. And I just don't understand why, other than it's a psyop and he doesn't want people listening to the tapes. He knows that they're a self-help program. And when I say he, I really mean whoever he's actually working for. I don't know who this guy is, right? But his channel, I mean, most of his videos get several thousand views, which is awesome. Good for him. Some of them in the tens of thousands. Again, this one, 90,000. I just have a very strong feeling that he's just not a regular guy that came out of nowhere, like your buddy Victor here. I started this process out of desperation. When I started this art project, not just 3 years ago when I started in social media, but even the years that were leading up to that in the preparation for what we're doing in this art project, I was just down on my luck. I was in a bad place, and I started this research and started the listening to the tapes and growing the psilocybin mushrooms and learning the spiritual practices for self-help because I was, again, in a really bad spot. That's the truth of what's going on here. Not a 7-minute video that tells you not to try. I'm giving you a year-long series and telling you that it's going to take everything you have to get through this program. And when you do, you are going to be stronger, happier, and just feel better in so many different ways. You're going to discover things about yourself that you didn't know. This is the message I bring to you, not the lies that this guy's bringing to you. This is the mind war. These are the psyops that we fight.
Now, I had used the Gateway experience just as a consumer, just out of personal preference because it was convenient. But in my opinion, it doesn't work any better than any of the rest of these. Most of these devices are just very simple entrainment devices, just like my little magnetic pulsar here. All they do is entrain you to go from alpha to theta to delta, whatever you wish, to help you relax and get into your own latent meditative state. So at least when you use these, you know that what you're getting into is organic. It is true.
Okay. What he's saying here is true. We are getting into that state of hypnosis. We're getting into that very relaxed state. That's, again, the alpha, the beta, the theta, the delta waves, right? We're moving into a state, again, we've talked about a little bit, of somnambulance, that state of hypnosis, that state of deep relaxation that allows us to then move into the spiritual work or follow the teachings that we're getting from the Gateway Experience tapes, right? But you got to see what's coming next here.
And if you couple any of these brainwave entrainment devices, get yourself into theta state, and use the psychic training device that I taught you.
The psychic training device that I taught you how to build. You're seeing it on the screen right now. This dude just shown his true colors as a snake oil salesman. What you're seeing on the screen right now is from another one of his videos where he teaches you how to build a psychic training device that you wear on your head. All right, man. I mean, maybe it works. And I'm not trying to stop people from experimenting and stuff like that. But what are we doing? What are we talking about? I'm trying to bring you reality. Simple, basic things. You get some headphones, some eye covers, smoke a little weed, take a little bit of psilocybin, listen to some guided meditation tapes, and then do your spiritual work in whatever form it comes. It's not that complicated. It's not crazy. It's natural. It's real. This guy's talking about building a psychic entrainment device that you're going to wear on your head, and it's insane. And he is showing his true colors as, again, that snake oil salesman.
How to make. You can have some extremely profound experiences well above.
Look at this lady.
You would normally get.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Which is more realistic, folks? What we've done here in 9 months, week after week, coming here, sharing our experiences, or this silly lady sitting here with what looks like plastic wrap and a hanger wrapped around her head that's probably connected to some battery or something. What are we doing? 90,000 people have seen this. 90,000 people who at least were, interested enough to think about the Gateway Experience tapes, and now they're being lied to. And this is the psyop. This is the mind war. This is what we're fighting.
Through meditation. I've received dozens of emails and DMs from people who are using the psychic training device and the magnetic pulsars, and they're having truly extraordinary experiences. Things like finally having lucid dreams for the first time in their lives. And that's the point. The point is to open source this material, give it out to you so you can. So although I'm giving.
Okay. I like the idea of open source. That's what we're doing here. Okay. I'm not making any money off of this program. Okay. I set up Victory Work Apparel, thought maybe I can make a few bucks selling some t-shirts. I've made one sale. I'm not here to make money. This is free open source. I've told you where to find the tapes for free. There's countless places. I've told you where to find Monroe's books for free. Countless places. The only thing that I've told you that you may need to purchase, again, is the Beats headphones, which again, I've told you, get them on Amazon. They go on sale all the time, usually for $100 or less. You have to get some eye covers. Maybe if you can't afford them, tie a t-shirt around your face. I don't know. The psilocybin and THC, of course, that's going to cost a little money. If you grow it yourself, it's super cheap. Again, the psilocybin, you can get all that you need material-wise and grow enough psilocybin to last you throughout the whole process, if not longer, for about $100. Again, we're talking a couple $100 invested in some real normal things, not psychic brain entrainment devices. Insanity. Insane. That's crazy, okay? We're talking about very basic things here.
The Gateway Experience, a thumbs down as a consumer. I'm not going to leave you empty-handed. I'm going to go through all of these devices, start showing you what's available and how to actually get yourself into the proper states, how to combine it up with the psychic training device, and how to have some really extraordinary experiences.
Whatever, man. Whatever. Is basically what I got to say to the Museum of Tarot channel. That's the psyop. That guy is a psyop. I believe he is probably working for one of our intelligence agencies or something like that. I think his videos get propped up and promoted through the algorithm because he is lying to us, mis and disinformation. And sorry, I shouldn't say lying, okay, because I don't want to slander him or any of that type of stuff. This is all allegedly and all the terms that you got to use to not get in trouble nowadays, right? But when you look at the massive difference between what he said in that 7-minute video and what we've been doing here in this year-long series of the Gateway Experience tapes, where I've come down here every week and shared with you the experiences that I'm having, there's no comparison. There's no comparison in his charlatan work with his fake psychic entrainment device that you can build from home. Just buy the instructions or open source instructions from him. Get out of town, bro. That stuff might work. Whatever. Great. Good for you. You're not the person that I'm after. I'm after that person that, just like me, a few years ago found themselves in a really bad state. Because the first and foremost fundamental aspects of what we do here in the Mind War is self-help. And not fake self-help through therapy appointments with doctors who need and want your money, who are going to prescribe you all sorts of medications that are going to mess with your mind. That's not what we're doing here. In fact, before I started any of this, I did 90 days sober, folks. We've talked about that a little bit before, and I think that's crucial for all of you too. Before you start any of this, 90 days sober, that includes the little pills that they give you. Now, again, that's not medical advice. I can't tell you not to follow the advice of your doctor, but I think the real best way to get this to work is you got to sober up for 90 days, including getting off the pills, right? Truly sober up for 90 days, and then you begin. So I thought that was a great comparison. I thought that was something that we could maybe get away from the normal format here of the program. I thought that was cool. We got some new technology in OBS playing the video there. So I hope you all liked that section here. I thought it was eye-opening. Again, this is the mind war. This is why we fight. These are the psyops that we fight against. You have to understand how to recognize them. When people like that talk to you like that, and they do the bait and switch, and they talk about 20 different topics, and they do it in a short, compressed little video, that's a psyop. That's the mind war, okay? They're going to try to get you to doubt yourself and what you're doing. And it's nonsense. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to believe it, okay? So that was the beginning half of today's episode. We are going to be doing a deep dive into Wave 7 Voyager Tape 3, Intro to Focus 25, after a word from our sponsor. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Okay, welcome back, folks. Let's do our deep dive into Wave 7 Voyager Tape 3 Intro to Focus 25. So, Wave 7 Tape 3 and Wave 7 Tape 4 have a very interesting connection. You kind of ascend through different levels, and we'll talk about that as we go through this tape here. It says, move now through your preparatory process, right? So we're going to move into Focus 21. Now, let's see. It says, now I will move you into Focus 23, and then he guides you into Focus 25. And he says this, Focus 25, the region that contains all human belief systems, large and small. Okay. So the different layers that we talked about that you're going to experience as you have your out-of-body experience. Again, that first layer is where you are seeing the emotional energy of all the people who are alive in the world today. They're wide awake, they're living their life, and they're experiencing emotions. That's what you kind of feel first. That next layer you move into, again, kind of on the interstate, right? That first off-ramp, you're going to run into people who are maybe unconscious because they're in a coma, because they passed out from drugs or alcohol, or maybe they're just asleep and they're having an out-of-body experience. Then you move up to that state, that next layer, where you're going to run into people who have recently died. They don't know where they're at. They're confused, or maybe they were addicted to drugs or alcohol, and they are desperately trying to get back into their physical bodies. We move beyond that into what we're talking here, the region that contains all human belief systems, aka religions, the big and the small religions, okay? And now it says this. Okay, so basically here's what happened and here's what I was feeling. So we'll read this part here. It says Wave 7-3, Focus 25. Floating in dark water above the surface, I see the lights of religions above the surface of the dark water. Okay. So in Focus 25, I feel like I'm floating in the dark water again. right? A beautiful feeling, nothing to be afraid of. And I look upwards and I can see the surface of the water. And above the surface of the water, I see bright lights, the lights of religion, okay? Again, those belief systems. Now it says this, the water is gel, it's clear. Now this is above the water. And it's thick. I did not break through. I felt pushed away like I always have with religion and floated downward. Okay, so what happened is when I was swimming up to the surface, because I thought that's where I was supposed to go, instead of breaking through the surface of this dark water and kind of floating, like popping my head through and it just being, air and oxygen like our atmosphere. Instead, I ran into a thick layer of gel, like clear gel that I couldn't push through. I could see the lights in the clear gel, but I couldn't break the surface. Okay, again, these layers, very, very strange, very cool feeling, okay? Not scary. Again, none of this is really scary because we volunteer, we know what we're doing, we've read through the books, we kind of are prepared to experience these things, so there is no fear here in the mind war. But once I hit that gel and realized I couldn't push through it, I said, okay, I'm not supposed to go there. In fact, I was feeling pushed away. Religion has always pushed me away. I've shared some of those stories throughout the series here and throughout some of my early work, right? And we'll talk about that more in future episodes, but I've always felt pushed away by religion. And it was that same feeling. So instead of trying to force my way through this gel and break into the region where these belief systems are held, I started to sink into the water. And when I did, a couple of things happened. It says, as we move, you can remain fully conscious and under complete control. For you is a tiny pinpoint of light. So in front of you is a tiny pinpoint of light. Look for it, and when you perceive it, focus your attention on that speck of light. And sure enough, as I was floating down into the darkness, a tiny speck of light appeared, and I started to focus on it. And now he's reading us into 24, 25. He says, before you and around you, observe and perceive the expressions of each human belief as to existence beyond time and space. Greater the number of those who so believe, the more in resonance in that particular area. So basically what he's saying is you're going to perceive everyone else's beliefs in their religion. Again, in the gel floating above the water, bright, bright lights, huge lights. That was the Judeo-Christian, Islamic, Abrahamic faiths, right? All the other normal kind of mainstream faiths of the world, they were floating around in the gel, nice and bright. I could see them. I could feel their energy. Again, felt pushed away, rejected by it, floated downward. Yet even the smallest is also representative of the smallest belief, with no more than a few maintaining the structure. So even tiny belief systems are still there, and those are the ones that were that tiny speck of light floating in the dark water. It says, you can remain calm and conscious and observe without participation. Observe and explore. You may encounter those who know more than you. But remember, you're only a visitor here to observe and remember and take with you the memory. Now go and explore. Okay. So in my exploration here, we're reading from the red binder. Oh boy, folks. Let's see. Downward. I floated downward and saw a small light. Approached it. It was Daog in the 12 tribes cult. That's right. That small light that appeared in front of me represented my friend Joe, who is, also known as Daog, who has joined a Judeo-Christian cult called the 12 Tribes. You can find them at 12tribes.org. My childhood best friend has been a member of this cult for over 25 years. He joined after we both got out of the military. I took the more traditional route, got married, had kids, and continued to work for the military. He took a very strange route and decided to join a Judeo-Christian cult, again called the 12 Tribes. So I saw this light and I asked it. I said, how do I free my friend Joe from this Christian cult? And basically the answer that I received is one that I've been working on already with him, because I have talked to him 2 or 3 times in this last year. This is the first time I've talked to him in over 10 years. It's been well over a decade since we spoke. And one of the things that I asked him was, Joe, you've been playing this character named Daog for over 20 years. And Daog is a character you're playing, the same way that Victor is a character I'm playing. And I asked him, I said, it has to be exhausting. Coming down here for 2 hours and recording these episodes as Victor is exhausting for me, right? Playing a character can be exhausting. We all know that. We often have to play the character of employee when we go to work, and it's exhausting. Fake smiles at the customers that we hate, right? So I asked Joe, I said, isn't it exhausting playing this character? And I could actually hear it in his voice that he understood what I was saying. And I know that I caught him off guard with that question, because he said, yeah, it can be. That's huge. That was huge. That was the first time in 20-something years where I've actually heard him for just one moment question what he's been doing. Question this cult and their motives. It was the first time. It was a huge breakthrough. And what I heard when asking that question of how do I help free him from the cult, the answer I got was to continue this attack on the character known as Daog. And so when I talk to Joe next, I'm going to make sure that he knows that his best friend, his childhood best friend Danny, still loves his best buddy Joey. Okay? But Victor hates Daog. Okay? There's a huge difference there. There is a battle going on right now between me and my childhood best friend. But it's not us who we really are. The battle is between the characters that we are playing. He's been lied to. He's actually been brainwashed. He's actually been mind controlled by this cult. And I'm doing everything I can through my character and the things that we're doing here to help free him from it. And I hope that someday I can sit down and show him the Gateway Experience tapes and teach him the things that I've learned from the spiritual aspects of my work, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting, right? This, inability to get through that gel layer and get into the rest of the belief systems. And just like the narrator said, keep looking, that small spot of light, go there. And what I found there, again, was my friend Joe, who now goes by the name Daog because he's a member of a Judeo-Christian cult called the 12 Tribes. You can find them at 12tribes.org. And we're going to talk a lot about them in future seasons, right? So that's my notes for that tape. Let's see. Wave 7 Voyager Tape 3 Intro to Focus 25. Again, basically after this, we are told to leave any emotions that we may have taken from this visit, because it was emotional. I will say that. We're going to leave the emotion behind, and we're going to take the memory with us, which is exactly what I did. It's what I'm sharing with you now. And then he just talks us back into Focus 10 and then wakes us up, right? So, again, that was Wave 7 Voyager Tape 3 Intro to Focus 25. A great tape. It has a close connection to the tape that we're going to be talking about in the next episode. Today, we did kind of a different format for the program here. We did some debunking of a video from a channel titled Museum of Tarot. I'm sure the guy is a nice guy, but I think what we learned there is that we have to be careful of the psyops. They come in many forms. This is what the mind war is. We're breaking down the psyops that are run against us. And right now, their main weapon, their tool of the mind war that is used against us through these psyops is social media. And we have to break down the social media posts. The videos that are being sent to us, we have to break them down just like we did here today, expose the lies, expose the fear, and expose the psyop. As always, I appreciate you being here. And remember, folks, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.